You're at your old trusty boat. You call mighty sparrow. I'm in the city of Mardi Gras.
Welcome to the Sailing into Oblivion podcast, where we sit down with everyday people who do extraordinary things. I'm your host, Jerome Rand. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll tell you, it's funny who we end up running into, bumping into, having conversations with in this world. A few months back when I was up here in Michigan, I needed to get a lift up to the airport, and I called a shuttle service, and driver picks me up, and we get to chatting, and I find out that he's probably one of the most interesting people I have ever met in my life. A guy by the name of Matt. And I mentioned that I had a podcast as I was getting out of the airport, and he had mentioned to me, oh, well, I got some pretty interesting stuff I could tell you about. And months later, I'm back here in Michigan. I look him up, and he remembers me. So I go in, and he spends some time with me, and I am still just in awe of the person that I was just able to interview and have a conversation with and just communicate with and learn from. And I'm definitely inspired, and I don't know. I don't know what else to say, but just absolutely an amazing human being, and the pleasure was all on my side of the table when it comes to being able to sit down and chat with this fine example of humankind. So as I always say, if you want to support the podcast, you can head over to Patreon. Link will be in the description, as well as some links for some various programs that Matt mentions in the podcast. So I just want to make those available to everybody. And if you just want to reach out to the show, head over to sailingintooblivion.com. And special thanks to my listeners that reached out to me to help me find that copy of the magazine, because I think it's already on the way. So thank you all very much, and enjoy the show. Oh, and one little note, there is a bit of foul language in this one, so ye be warned. Well, cool. Matt, thank you again for letting me come in here, man.
No problem.
People's time is the most precious commodity.
Yeah, I think so. I've been realizing that more and more as the older I get, like looking to the future, and I see people like 70 years old still working, and I'm like, I don't want to be doing this.
Yeah,
like,
right.
I want my time for me to go do what I want to do and just live more than being stuck in an office or working, a 9-to-5 constantly.
Well, and I've always thought that it's amazing especially when you're younger, what you'll trade your time for. Usually it's money, obviously, but it seems like wasting it is something, and that goes to that old saying of like youth is wasted on the young, or how I'm butchering that.
Yeah, well, I was just talking the other day with a friend of mine, and was like, I almost feel like we should do retirement from like 18 to 25 or 30, and then you can work. Like, you're 70 years old, you retire, you want to go live, but your body's beat up. You're sore all the time.
That'd be the perfect time for like an office job.
Right, yeah. Right? Be sitting down and like, oh, my back hurts today. Like, big deal. You know?
It's like, keep typing.
Right.
Your fingers are going to hurt.
Yeah. So it's crazy. I've been trying to make it a point to do more. Like, I'm doing a concert a week this month. Like,
Oh, really?
I just don't care. Like, I'm going to go do what I want to do and just enjoy it.
Well, I hear you on that. Well, and I mean, I'm trying to, I try not to think about these podcasts, before I actually sit down with them, because then I feel like it's loaded questions and stuff. But I was trying to pick my brain about what we talked about. And one, just as a quiz for my own mental capabilities, you were in the Navy, right?
Yep.
Lots of music concerts and festivals.
Yep.
And then there was something at the end, right before I got out at the airport, and I had mentioned the podcast, and you were like, oh, well, I got something pretty interesting to talk about.
Yeah.
And we can get into that in a bit, but I can't remember what it was at all.
No?
I was like, what the hell did he say? Because as soon as he said it, I was like, fuck, I need to get this guy on the show.
Right.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
So I mean, I don't know who all you've had on your show, but I'm probably the only one that's ever been in People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive issue. I
No
can't
way.
imagine. Yeah.
You got to be joking.
No, for real. 2010. Some dude named Johnny Depp was on the cover. I don't know why he was there, but yeah, they did. the centerfold was us, and they had us as Heroes of the Year in 2010. They ran a big story about this kidney chain.
That's what it was.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I had donated a kidney, and it started the world's first chain effect of transplants. And the doctor that had kind of arranged it all had previously written to the New England Journal of Medicine about doing this like pay it forward kind of chain where like somebody just random would start it, and then like if you needed one, like a friend or a relative was willing to donate, but they weren't a match. But I was. So then they would have me give to you, and then your friend or relative would give to another stranger.
Whoa.
And then like that person's family or friend would give to another stranger. And so the New England Journal of Medicine was like, yeah, no, we're not publishing this story. That's a terrible idea. Like somebody's going to back out and ruin it all.
Oh, break the chain.
And so when we were talking about doing it, you know, he had asked me my thoughts, and he's like, I've got to tell you, like, transplant community does not support this. Like everyone thinks it's a bad idea.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's always been kind of a sticky situation, the whole giving organs to other people and selling organs and all that's like
right.
It gets like it's a touchy subject.
Yeah. So other countries selling organs is completely legal.
Right.
In the US it's not.
Gotcha.
And so it takes an altruistic donor or, you know, a friend or family member
which
to
it
have a living donor.
Is, right?
Yeah. More often than not, it's a family member or a friend than an altruistic donor. And so, you know, when he's asking me about it and telling me that everyone's like, this is a terrible idea, I said, look, Mike, I'm not a doctor. I'm certainly not a transplant surgeon. But like in basic terms, like I'm willing to donate to somebody, right?
Yeah.
So one person's going to get a kidney, right? So let's say we do this and that person gets a kidney and then their friend or relative donates to somebody else. Well, now two people got one. So if that third person's like, thanks, my relative got their kidney, I'm dipping out where I'm not going to donate now.
Right.
Last time I checked my wallet, if I had $2 in it, it was better than one. So isn't that still a success?
Yeah, exactly.
And he was like, well, that's how I feel. And I said, well, fuck it. Let's do it then.
Wow.
And so we rolled with it. And, you know, so we started this chain. I donated to a woman in Phoenix. A week later, her husband donated to another woman in Toledo.
All kidneys?
Yep.
It just stays, so it stays the same on that.
Right.
And it just keeps going and going.
Yep. And so at the time, it had never been done before. And it turned out to be really successful. Our chain stopped. It's not dead, but the last donor now that's up to donate has some weird antibodies. So it's hard to find a match for that person.
Right.
If they do, the chain will continue. But since that time, there's been over 1,000 people transplanted as a result of chains that weren't being done before. It had never been done. And so
Holy cow.
In 2010, you know, they resubmitted a paper to the New England Journal of Medicine about doing chains as changing, you know, every year there's more people dying than getting these transplants for kidneys, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like, this is a real way we could put a dent into the amount of people on the waiting list. And so New England Journal of Medicine's like, yeah, this can be our feature story. Right. So I was on my way back.
Turnaround.
Right. Yeah. It was a couple of years, but nonetheless, like I was on my way back from Haiti. I had been down there on a mission trip and was in the airport in Miami. And Dr. Reese calls me up and he's like, hey, can you be in New York tomorrow? And I was like, for what? And he said, well, we're going to be on Katie Couric's show. They're highlighting the chain because the New England Journal of Medicine has it as their feature story now.
Yeah. And
it was like, I'm going to check my wife. She's been with the kids for 10 days while I've been in Haiti. And I'm literally in the airport in Miami about to fly back to Michigan now. And I'm going to have to turn around tomorrow morning and fly to New York. Like,
when did all this jet setting start?
Right.
Jeez.
Right. So yeah, I mean, we did that. And then that year was kind of a whirlwind. Like the first year, there was a ton of media attention around it, but Spain actually changed their transplant laws so that they could allow for chains to take place. So it was a huge
Really?
interview with El País, which is the largest Spanish-speaking newspaper in the globe.
Yeah.
And then People Magazine did that feature story that happened to be in their Sexiest Man Alive episode. So I always just say that part of it. I can,
You know,
who cares
I'm
about
at
the
the-
kidney thing? Like I was in People Magazine's
know,
Sexiest
right?
Man Alive episode.
I gotta see the spread. I'm gonna have to Google that one.
Yep. So yeah, that was a cool time, and I still do a lot of stuff promoting organ donation.
Yeah.
A few years back, we did got a Guinness record. We had like the largest group of living donors in the world at one place at one time. We
Like a kind of a reunion almost.
Yeah, at the Big Bean in Chicago, because everyone refers to kidneys as beans, and so
Oh, nice. That's cool.
It was kind of a cool thing. Just a bunch of living donors all got together, and several from our chain that were there, and just
Wow.
hanging out, having a good time, setting a Guinness record, and
Talk about an inspiration to other people.
part
when
of
they see that stuff.
another group now that's called Kidneys for Communities, and it's just getting started. Some people through Mike that he knew as well, Dr. Reese, and it's going to be kind of an effort nationwide to go into different places and just be kind of that ambassador, if you will, to like walk somebody through it. That if you were looking to donate, when I donated, there wasn't a bunch of living donors to talk to. Like, what was your experience like?
Right.
It just wasn't there. And so they've kind of pulled together several living donors that are part of this group now that will be kind of walking people through that process if they have questions or just need somebody there to talk to about the whole thing. So it'll probably be something that'll be part of my life until I'm gone. And
Oh, I'm sure.
even after that, I was still in People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive.
Yeah, I know. I'm getting the sense that you really enjoyed that part of it.
Oh yeah, especially with my siblings. You look, nobody see me walking down the street like, oh, that guy is People's Sexiest Man Alive material. But joke's
Guess
on you,
what?
I've been
Yeah.
there.
Hey, I got a ride to Pelston with the sexiest man alive.
Right.
Oh, it should be on your business card.
I
bet.
should. Yeah.
Holy cow. Well, what was the initial sort of thing that got you into all that? Was there
It
something
was-
that happened, or was
No,
it
it was
just
a fluke, pure fluke. Like I had come home from work early one day, saw a news story about some dude that had gone from Pennsylvania to Colorado to donate a kidney to a stranger.
yeah?
And didn't even know you could do that. I'd always donated blood. I was on the bone marrow registry already, and
Oh wow. Okay.
I'm like, this is interesting. And so it mentioned the website that the guy had, gone through to donate, and I get on there to check it out, and you had to register for the site, and went through all that and kind of just started searching through. I was just intrigued by it more than anything. I love social kind of stuff like that. It's always been intriguing to me, and I just want to know about people and what they're doing. And so I start reading some of these profiles, and then I noticed that I had a message in the inbox, and I figured it was probably some generic like welcome letter kind of thing. And I clicked on it, and it was this lady from Buffalo, New York. I was like, hey, I see that you marked that you'd be willing to donate a kidney, which I had checked the box, like not thinking anything of it.
Right.
And she's like, my son needs a kidney and yada, yada. Would you consider testing for him?
Because you have to match.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff that goes into just being able to be
Yeah.
the right person for him, right?
Yep. So it was just weird coincidences. Like my best friend growing up, his mom's name was Jeanette, and this lady's name was Jeanette.
Oh,
And-
almost like a
and
sign.
then like the last name was another like childhood friend's last name, and it was like, this is fucking weird, but screw it, yeah, I'll do it. My wife wasn't even home, and I didn't consult family, nobody. I was just like, sure. So from like seeing this news story to being on the phone with a transplant coordinator from Buffalo was like less than an hour.
Wow.
And so she's like, I'm going to FedEx you this blood kit. You'll take it to the hospital where you live. They'll draw the blood. They'll FedEx it back to us, and we'll, see if you're a match.
Yeah.
And so, my wife gets home, and I'm like, well, there's going to be a package coming from FedEx. And, it's like, what'd you buy on eBay? I had an
right.
eBay problem.
What'd you get
back
this
then.
time, Matt?
Right. I'm like, no, for real. They're like sending me some blood kits to see if I'm a match for this dude in New York for a kidney. And it was like,
What was her
it was like
reaction?
bullshit. Seriously, what'd you order? I'm like, I didn't order any. Like, come look at the computer. I'll show you.
Yeah.
And so I showed her, and she's like, no, you need to tell them you're not doing this. We didn't talk about this, nothing.
You can't give away. She owns your body.
Right. And so I'm like, well, it's too late. I already gave my word. I told them I would. And I said, so I got to see it through now. And ended up not being a match. He did end up getting a kidney from another guy down the road. But the mom, Jeanette, she has an organization called Western New York Kidney Connection, and they try and coordinate people that need kidneys with people that are willing to donate. So she's kind of got her own thing going, and we still keep in contact on Facebook. I still talk to that original transplant coordinator in Buffalo.
Oh, wow.
That just the transplant community in general is really kind of tight knit. Like,
I would assume that you create a pretty strong bond when you're dealing with that life and death stuff. I mean, for sure.
Yeah. So, it's always been weird to me that like people throw around like, oh, dude, you're a hero. And it's like, I'm not a fucking hero. I didn't like run into a burning building and drag somebody out or something like.
Well, you agreed to, I would definitely say it's an extraordinary thing to do. I mean, really.
Yeah. I think I saw a study that was actually done about altruistic donors, and it kind of made everything make sense. Cause to me, it was like never a big deal.
Yeah.
And when people make a big deal out of it, I struggled initially. People were like, oh my God, you're the dude that donated that kidney to a stranger. That's so awesome. And my initial response
is put me out, cut me open. I don't even remember it.
My initial response is like, well, if you think it's so fucking awesome, go do it. Like,
right.
Well, I don't see what's so difficult here. And, that's always been my take on it.
Yeah.
But you can't say that to people. So I'm just like, yeah, thanks. Like, great.
Yeah, right.
But
yeah,
at the same time, I'm like, it wasn't a big deal at all. And if you really think it is, then go do it.
Yeah.
Like
right.
it's not hard. And so the study had come out about altruistic donors and people that are altruistic in general, and our brains work differently, turns out.
Really?
Yeah. And so it kind of made sense then, like, oh, no wonder I don't understand why these people are making a big to do out of it. It's nothing to me. But their brains see it as a big deal. And people that are altruistic, if you talk to any of them, they're all just kind of like, it was a thing.
Shit.
Like, yeah, I went and bought you a cup of coffee. Like, I wouldn't make a big to do if I bought you Starbucks.
Right.
But that's kind of like on the level of it.
Well, there's an interesting, my brain's just ticking because a lot of the people sort of in my sort of realm with the big adventure stuff.
Yeah.
That kind of come back from doing things like Everest or big sailing trips and stuff. And they're sort of like, myself included, like, yeah, it was a big trip and that was great. When other people look at it and they're like, holy cow, how would you, why would you? And they have all these questions.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I remember when I first got back to the dock, I kind of looked around and I was like, why is everybody so excited?
Yeah.
Like I was just sailing. That's a strange thing. I mean, not that mine really compares with yours, but it's that same thinking of like, yeah, it's not a big deal, but to other people that I think it's so far out of the wheelhouse for most people.
Right. Well, I was talking to my buddy Dan yesterday and telling him that I was going to sit down with you, and he's like, well, what kind of is it? Like a kidney podcast? Is that what he wants to talk to you about?
Welcome to the Kidney Podcast.
I'm like, no. I'm like,
celebrity Matt.
I'm like, the dude sailed around the fucking world nonstop by himself and like hiked the Appalachian Trail, like start to finish. Not like, oh, I'm gonna go do this section and then do this section. Like,
you got a good memory too.
I'm like, this guy does like legit shit that's like really fucking cool. And I don't know why the hell he wants to talk to me because none of it's that fucking cool. Like,
oh no, we had a good conversation.
It's
that's
like,
all
it's weird how people's brains like value different things. It's kind of like shit that I would never sail around the fucking world. That's nuts.
Yeah.
You know, and you're
That's-
probably
that's
sitting over
most
there.
people's response.
You're probably sitting over there like, I'd never give some stranger my kidney. That's fucking nuts. You
I'd
know?
have to have a few answered questions before I got there. But honestly, just talking to you in this short amount of time, I'm sort of like, well, I wonder if I would ever do something like that.
Yeah.
So who knows? I don't know. I would have to, I'd have to figure that one out. But I don't know. It's crazy. It's how there's a bit of a similarity there. I've heard it referred to when it comes to adventurers as the Ulysses factor, and it's some mental aspect that drives certain people to go out, risk their lives, do something, which in your case you definitely did, right? There must have been a risk.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's like any surgery is like a 1 in 3,000 people can die from anesthesia.
Well, and you only have one kidney, right?
Right. But you only need one.
You only need one.
There's people that are only born with one.
Well, let me ask you this. Why do you have two then? These questions must have come up. That's the only reason I'm asking.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I don't know why you got two. Fuck if I know. Like,
I just signed the paper, man.
In case one goes bad, I don't know. Like,
Right,
I've met people that have had like kidney cancer and had a kidney removed, and they're just fine with one. I've met people that have literally just been born with one; they didn't have two, and they live perfectly normal lives. And you've got people that have donated kidneys in the 60s and they've just had one the whole time. And they're just fine. So,
and you've been 100% fine, right?
I don't know that I was ever 100% fine. No, I ended up with a hernia at the incision site.
Okay.
Because I don't listen to doctors.
Yeah, not a lot of us do.
They're like, oh, you need to take it easy for this amount of time. Like, don't do anything. And it's like, fucking feel fine. I'm going back to doing my shit. And then, oh, well, there's a hernia. Great. So I had to have a second surgery.
Back
to
under
fix
the knife
that,
we
right?
go.
So
you gonna listen to us now?
No, I still didn't. No, literally, no joke. Like, I had that surgery. I had staples in my abdomen running up from my belly button. I don't know. There was like 12 or 16 staples.
Yeah.
The next day, I hopped on a plane and flew to Nashville for a conference. I used to be on the board of directors for Head Start, the National Head Start Association, in Michigan and for our region. And there was this conference in Nashville. And so, like, I hit the airport, right? And I set off the metal detectors and they're like, they're like, oh, we need to take you in the back room and check you. I'm like, dude, look here, I'll lift my shirt up. Like, I don't care. It's staples. And they're like, are you supposed to be flying? And I'm like, doctor said it was fine. And they were like, okay. Doctor didn't say it was fine. He told me not to do it. But I was like,
I have a note.
I'm like, I've already got plans to do this. I'm going, staples aren't going to stop me. And so, like,
waving the wand over your belly, like, nee, 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 nee.
Yeah, literally didn't learn my lesson at all. Like, take it easy so nothing happens, and then let me jump on a plane.
Oh, God. That's too funny. I had a melanoma, like a surface one, removed right in my stomach, and I got it removed like 2 days before I flew back down to the Caribbean when I was working, and I showed up there with this like maybe 4-inch zipper of black thread, my sutures. And I show it to the guys, and I work on a beach, basically shirtless all day, and they're like, that was a melanoma? What's going on? How are you going to even do anything down here? I was like, they just told me cover it. And once it heals, then a little sunscreen.
Right. Yeah. No worries.
Put a cover up on. Who knows? What does the Head Start thing do?
Like early childhood, preschool stuff. Head Start's been around since the 60s. Lyndon Johnson got it going back when he was president, and so it provides child early preschool. They have early Head Start, which is like from 1 on. They do like home visits and help kids with development and stuff.
Okay.
So over the years, a lot of people. It's crazy because I tend to lean kind of conservative on my political views, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's a social program," and it's like, yeah, but if you're fiscally conservative, you should want to support this because it saves buku bucks. The more we educate kids, the less end up incarcerated, which costs far more money later on. So why would you not want to?
Right.
So I got involved with Head Start years ago. and ended up being on the board of directors for the Michigan Head Start Association, and then was on the board of directors for the Region 5 Head Start Association, and co-chaired a national conference. 2010, that was a crazy year for me because I think that was the year I co-chaired the conference in Indianapolis. But
Oh, wow.
it was a busy year.
Yeah. Well, where do you find the time to do all this stuff and have a job and you got a family?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, my wife's a saint. Like, I was gone all the time.
I'll
you
bet.
know?
I'll bet.
There was times I remember being on a conference on Mackinac Island, came home, dropped off one bag, picked up another one, went to the airport, literally same day,
Yeah.
and flew to Minneapolis because we were doing a site visit for the regional conference out there in Minneapolis, St. Paul. And so it was a lot of being gone, doing
Yeah.
all that crazy stuff. And it was a great experience getting to, know that you're being a part of impacting kids' lives and
Absolutely,
and
yeah.
turning things around. And there's a group out of Washington, D.C. called Reading is Fundamental. And their goal is obviously to put books in kids' hands, so kids can read.
Yeah.
And I had written a couple of grants and
Hey, you want to just slide the mic over that way?
yeah,
a
I'm
little
drifting
bit?
away from it a
Yeah,
little bit.
yeah, it's all good.
So did some stuff, more locally to get grant money for books and everything, and had someone nominate me for an award through them. And I get this call one day. I didn't even know I was nominated, and they were like, "Hey, we selected you as our Volunteer of the Year award, and we want you to come to Washington D.C. for this gala
Nice.
event, and blah blah blah." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So went out there, met with our senators and congressmen, and had a luncheon, rubbing elbows with all like elite,
Yeah.
swanky Washington
The
folks.
big
Like
wigs.
literally sat at lunch with Lyndon Johnson's daughter.
Really?
And then the president of the National Head Start Association on one side and Lyndon Johnson's daughter on the other side at this luncheon where they're talking about like
Dude.
the great things that these volunteers are doing. And it's like, yeah, awesome. But at the same time, like, because that kind of shit, it's like, it's not a big deal to me.
Yeah.
They gave me this really cool, like crystal, I don't know, plaque kind of thing that's got a base. It's
Right.
been in a box since I brought it back. I've never displayed it. Like,
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I-
I was kind of, as you're telling me, so I'm peering around your office, and I'm like, I'm not seeing any of this stuff.
no. I mean, I've got a special tribute from the governor of Michigan. Like when I donated my kidney, like
Yeah,
some
yeah.
big thing that the state did and sent
All
me.
that stuff. And yeah, I mean,
It's in boxes. Like I don't display it. It's like
do you really need to make a
shrine
an
to
altar, a
myself.
shrine to
Yeah, like
yourself, yeah.
no, I'm like, no, I'm just a regular fucking dude. I don't.
That stuff you put up, I remember I received an award for like community spirit or something like that when I was in the BVI. And I remember putting it in our local bar.
Right.
The guys there, and we just threw it up on the shelf. And the general manager at the time who gave me the award was a little mad. She was like, what did you put it in there? You're not going to keep it? I was like, no, I'm not going to keep it. Put it on my shelf.
I've got Employee of the Year here at work twice, and one of them's hanging in my best friend's house next to his refrigerator. It was like a joke. Like, so you go into his house,
Put it on the dartboard, man.
you go in his house, and right next to the refrigerator, it's like, Employee of the Year, Matt Jones, and it's a better conversation piece at his house than it would be at mine. 'Cause they're like,
exactly.
like, why the hell do you have Matt's Employee of the Year plaque on the wall?
That's
and
so
everybody
funny.
just gets a different story of how it ended up there. So it's kind of taken on its own life.
Right.
So-
oh my God. Well, it's incredible hearing all this. How strange is it that, we end up, you're giving me a lift through the shuttle service up to an airport. What was that? That was in April, right? I think so.
I know the
Right
weather
till-
was
it
shitty
Yeah,
though.
it was snowy as hell. I was worried about whether or not we were going to we got stuck on that one
Going
hill.
up the hill, yeah. Yeah. That was sketchy.
And then, we started talking about the Navy and then all that stuff. And man, I tell you, I get really lucky when it comes down to just meeting people, striking up random conversations.
Yeah, you know what? I tend to think, dude, we've all got stories.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Like, and so often, I think we just kind of dismiss that, right? Like, you walk down the street, you see 10,000 people a day.
Yeah,
all 10,000 of them have stories.
They've all had experiences,
And when you actually take the time to stop and conversate with them, that's when you hear this dude, if you saw me walking down the street, tattoos, shorts,
I'd cross, bro.
like,
No,
right?
I'm
Like,
just kidding.
would you be like, I want to go talk to that guy. He's probably got some cool fucking stories.
I would, but you know, this is only a mental state that I've been in for the last bunch of years. A lot, I think, to thank from this podcast of just realizing that what you're saying is 100%. Like everybody's got these experiences,
Right.
and you learn not only about that person, but I think you learn about people in general when you take the time to, you know, just sit down and chat and back and forth. And I don't know, it's something that I think is lacking in today's society because there's
100%.
so much attention being drawn straight to, you know, people have asked me if I ever, you know, would have, the goal is to like have celebrities and stuff like that. And I couldn't imagine a worse guest than having, unless there's maybe somebody I was like a huge fan of or whatever, but still, even then, I don't know. It's unrelatable, and their stories have been told 8 million times anyway.
Right. So I mean, that's where I think in general, you know, I've had this philosophy for years. Like, there's not a single person walking this planet that's better than me. There's not.
Nice.
Doesn't exist.
Yeah.
There's also not a single person on this planet that I'm better than. Right? We're all walking a different path and a different pair of shoes.
Yep.
All right. And you don't know where I've been, what I've done. And until we talk, I don't know where you've been and what you've done. Right. And so going back to like that luncheon in DC, all right, we were sitting there having lunch. I was in a suit, tie, sport coat, clean up pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd like to see a picture of that.
And so we were talking and had mentioned that I had a Head Start tattoo. And it was hilarious because the president of the National Head Start Association's sitting there and she's like, I would have never guessed that you had a tattoo.
Really?
And I'm like, oh, well, hang on a second here.
Yeah.
You know, so I start rolling up sleeves and showing my arms and legs. And it's like, you know, the flip side of that is if they saw me on the street, tattoos from my hands to my shoulders, down my legs, shaved head, goatee, they're not going to ever be like, you know what? I bet he writes grants to get books to low-income children.
Right. I bet you donated a kidney.
Right. I bet you he likes to help out Head Start and get kids in preschool and get educated. You know, and so it's like we have these so whacked out, like preconceived notions just by looking at somebody.
These assumptions.
And then, like, when you start to conversate with them, you're like, holy shit. Like, I would have never imagined.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Well,
So-
I run into, it's actually a couple weeks ago, but I ended up running into and having to deal with a guy that was just a complete asshole. Like, just through and through. And I ended up, you know, pulling him aside and actually asking him if like everything was okay. And you know, you don't do that with normal strangers, right? And with this guy, I mean, it just wasn't. I don't know what was going on. I mean, it was pretty amazing to behold. And I was there with these guys working for like 5 hours. But for the most part, shoot, I forgot where I was going with this. Oh yeah, you get these assumptions, and one of the things that I've been sort of thinking of lately is when you do encounter somebody who's like either in a bad mood or they're ticked off, or you can tell something's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, normally the assumption nowadays is to be like, oh, what an asshole. Like, I don't want to deal with that person. But what I'm realizing more and more is that person is probably going through something in their life.
Yep.
That is causing that to happen. That person in general is probably not mean or angry or anything like that. And it's actually just the things that they're going through. And I think that, I don't know, sometimes if you can get past that, then all of a sudden, I think it can help both sides, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah. No, it definitely makes sense. And it's, I've dealt with a lot of that stuff in my life. Like my wife has dealt with some mental health issues. And so like I've made it a point to like do some major deep dives into like mental health stuff and how to be supportive of it, because a lot of times if you're not the one dealing with it, you're like, what the fuck is
Yeah,
going
yeah,
on
right.
here? Right. And it's easy to be like my wife's got anxiety.
You know what you need to do?
Right. And
Yeah.
I'm like, just fucking get it together. Take some deep breaths. We're fine. Like, you know,
Get
these
some
people,
exercise,
like,
right?
why? I don't see why you're freaking the fuck out. We know all these people, like, we're going to hang out with. And she's like, I just can't do it. I can't do it. And I'm like, that makes no sense to me. But I've never dealt with anxiety.
Right.
And so I start digging into it. And, you know, she's been getting help for it and gotten a lot better. But, you know, as a society, that's another area like we just kind of like, shh, we don't talk about that.
Yeah, just sweep it
Right.
under the rug.
And so we've got another friend, and, you know, I was just talking to her, and I'm like, look, if your doctor was like, hey, you got high blood pressure, you need to be on meds for it, you're going to be like, nah, it'll be all right.
I'll be fine.
I'm good. Or if they were like, hey, you're diabetic, you really need to take some insulin, you're going to be like, nah.
I like feeling lightheaded.
And I'm like,
all good.
What's going to happen if you don't? She's like, well, I'd probably die.
Yeah.
And I'm like, anything left untreated could result in that.
Yeah.
Right. I'm like, it's no different. But we need to like get rid of this idea that somehow mental health is any different than diabetes or high blood pressure. Like, you've got chemicals in your body that aren't doing what they're supposed to. And there's medicine that fixes that. Like, take the medicine.
Yeah.
You know, let it help fix you. You know, don't think that you're going to beat this on your own, because most people can't. You know, but it's like there's some shame that like goes along with it because of, you know, just decades in this country of us like ignoring that stuff, or
That person's
or kind
crazy.
of hiding it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, we don't want to tell them that, you know, our kid's nuts or whatever. And then we've got all these like weird stigmas around it. And
I think that's changing in the country.
it is. It's evolving into a better direction, but there's still a long way to go for people to feel
absolutely.
comfortable with this stuff. And I've actually found that a lot of these people like, oh, what a fucking asshole, right? You know,
Yeah.
a lot of times those people are people that are struggling with mental health stuff. And if you can get them to open up and talk about it, then all of a sudden you're like, wow.
You see
Well,
the
I know
relief.
who the asshole is in this fucking scenario. It's me.
It's me. Yeah.
Like-
yeah.
like-
I've been the one judging
like,
this person
wow,
the whole time.
great. I'm the fucking dick. So as much as we can learn about other people, I think those experiences also help us learn about ourselves.
Yeah,
Right? And
yeah.
like how we can do better to other people versus just like, well, they're batshit crazy.
Yeah.
You know,
Writing them right off. Yeah.
no time for that nonsense.
Well, and I think the bedrock of that is just the act of communication, like just sitting down
Right.
and being able to talk back and forth to a person and get to the bottom of things.
Right.
And when that doesn't happen, then there isn't really a direction to go. But that I've always thought communication is such an important thing in all walks of life. I mean, not just what we're talking about, but even, you know, when I used to do water sports stuff and managing people and all that, and you'd see like problems come up, and then all of a sudden, you know, something's not getting done, and then this person's mad, and it just turns into this huge mess. And it all could have just been avoided by, you know, one person didn't communicate one thing to the other person, which snowballs into
Right.
this huge thing. And I'm always saying that. I'm like, communication, it's the key. It's the key.
And seeing that, I feel like it's actually getting worse in our society.
I do too.
You
Well,
know-
we're all distracted. That doesn't help.
Well, there's the distraction, but there's also like, I remember growing up and it was like, we don't talk about religion. We don't talk about politics at
Yeah,
work
yeah,
or with
yeah.
other people. Like, those are touchy subjects, right?
Right,
We
right.
don't talk about those things. Fuck you. Those are the things I want to talk about. I don't give a shit if we agree or not. Like, guess what? When we start talking, we're going to agree on far more than what we disagree on. Like, hands down, guaranteed. And I've got friends that are like super, super liberal, and I've got friends that are super, super conservative. I love them all, and I can hang out with any one of them and have a great time and talk about those topics and
Yeah.
not get mad. Just the other night, I was over with some friends, and his sister was there, and she's a lawyer. And somehow we got talking about politics.
Right.
And, you know, she's like, well, I'm going to go somewhere we're not supposed to. You know, it's like,
like, go there. Who
What
cares?
are your thoughts on the Supreme Court and abortion?
Right.
And it was like, oof. Well, if anything's got a chance for this conversation to go south, there it is, right? Because people get so entrenched,
Very polarized at the moment.
on either side, and the media doesn't help it at all, right? So, like, they tell you one thing and they tell me another thing, right? And so I hate labels because of that, right?
Well, because
But
nobody's actually 100% cut and dry and fits in a box like that, I don't think.
no, they don't. Like if I were to tell you right now, I would consider myself conservative and a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so like right away, like all of a sudden there's a picture painted.
Interview's
Right?
over.
You know what I mean? Like there's this picture painted of who I am and everything I believe in.
Right. And how in the hell are you going to get that?
And Head
From
Start,
2 words.
Head Start doesn't align with that at all.
Right.
Right. My other beliefs, I've pissed off plenty of Christians because I'll argue till the day that I die that the people are born gay, and they're like, well, you can't be Christian and believe that. Like,
Right.
I absolutely can. You know,
You can
And
believe whatever you want.
Right. So like that's where I think labels suck.
Yes.
Right. Because as soon as someone hears that, like, Christian and conservative, it's like,
Yeah.
now,
Like, here we go. Roll
yeah,
up the sleeves.
right.
Time for a,
oh, you're
time
one of
for a
those
fight.
January 6th people, I know what you are. And it's not, it's like, no, like, I'm super liberal on a lot of social issues, right? And I'm fiscally conservative on a lot of other issues, and I'm conservative Second Amendment, but like, realistically, you've got like a very small portion of the population that's like extreme left, and you've got a very small population that's extreme right,
With very loud
and
voices.
they're the noisiest assholes on the planet.
They got the
And-
big Twitter feed.
Right. And everyone else is in like this 80 to 90% here in the middle, and we vary on different things.
Yeah.
Right. But then we sit there and talk. And that's what happened the other night. We sat out till 2:30 in the morning at my buddy's house, on Crooked Lake, just talking about all these different political issues. And, we got 2 people that are pretty liberal, a couple that are pretty conservative. And guess what we agreed on? Probably 70% of the topics we talked about.
Yeah.
But the mainstream media,
They'd
you turn
have
on the
you
TV,
believe.
it's like, don't talk to them, they hate you.
Right,
Oh,
right.
and you don't talk to them, they hate you. And so I think that's part of the biggest factor in why communication in this country is just like breaking down, because we pigeonhole everybody in these little boxes based on labels.
Yeah,
Right?
well,
Like-
and then you start telling you almost want to tell the person how you actually define them. Like, you'll say, "Oh, well, you're a conservative. Well, that means you, and that means you're this, and you were this, and you're this."
Right.
And it's like, well, would you like me to tell you what I actually believe, or would you rather just
Right.
you kind of assume all these things?
Yeah, I think we'd be great with like a third party that just is like called "fuck the other two."
Yeah, right.
And
The
that would
People's Party.
Yeah, more people would belong to that than anything. But like, I get weird about that. Even like my nephew, who's gay, was like, "Oh, you're an ally." So in the LTGBQA or whatever, he's like, "That's you," and I'm like, "No, that's not me." I'm like, "I don't want a fucking label, dude. Like,
Yeah, right.
I'm who I am. Like, I love you." And I'm grateful that you feel like I'm an ally. I am. You're my family. I fucking love you to
just don't
death.
need the name tag.
I don't need a
Yeah.
label put on me. Like, I just don't like them on any aspect of things. Like, sorry, I'm me.
Yeah,
That's who I am. That's my label.
the name
right?
is Matt.
Right.
You can look at my tattoos.
Or you can just refer to me as People Magazine's sexiest.
You're darn right. Till the day is that the headstone, I guess.
Yeah, no, I don't want to be buried. I want to be cremated and sprinkled at sea. So, I mean, I guess you could put a little buoy out there floating that was like,
There you go.
ashes were sprinkled here of.
Yeah. Sexiest man lies at these depths.
Right. And it wasn't Johnny Depp either. I don't know why they gave that dick the cover.
Oh, who knows? Who knows? Well, I definitely know what you mean, because I know. I guess it was this winter, sitting around talking on one of these boats. We have a lot of friends in marinas and stuff, and I got back down there, and I could talk with some buddies of mine that were from Canada, and we used to have these nice discussions about politics.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember telling him plenty of times, I was like, man, I haven't been able to do this with friends in years now because it gets so heated and people get so hurt and
Yeah.
so offended that it seems like you can no longer, it's just something you can't talk about anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's kind of refreshing too, because I think that sort of debate is how you eventually come to an agreement and you actually solve problems, rather than one person says they want one way, the other person wants it the other way, and they just fight against each other to prevent the other one from
Right. Yeah. You
accomplishing
don't
anything.
even have to want it the other way anymore. It's like, oh, you're on that side and this is your idea. It sucks.
Yeah. It just comes right out.
Right. Like you don't even have to offer up like something alternative. It's just like, well, you're on the left, I'm on the right. And if you come up with an idea, it's garbage.
Yeah. Well, vote for me because I'm going to do a better job of stopping them.
Oh, right.
And it's like, well, that's not exactly a plan for any sort of positive progression in our society.
Right.
Who knows? But we're starting to get down in time, and I don't want to go too far off on
Down
that
the rabbit
tangent.
hole.
But I did want to ask you about Haiti.
Yeah.
Yeah, what were you doing down there?
So we helped build a school and a church down there.
And how did you get into this one? I mean, are you with all these? I guess is it just random acts that just you find yourself connecting up with these people, or is it something you kind of search out?
No, no, that one. So after I donated my kidney,
Yeah.
I had this local church ask me to come talk about my experience, and I'm like, I mean, I guess I can. I met with the pastor, and I'm like, I mean, I'll do it, but just so you know, I'm an atheist. And he's like, okay. He's like, I'm fine with that, just as long as you know that I'm a pastor and I believe in God.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, cool. Right. So
Now we know we can move on.
We're good. So I go there and talk about this experience, and they take me out to lunch afterwards, and we're at lunch, and he's talking about having been, to Haiti. And he's like, one of these days I'm going to take you to Haiti with me. And it was like,
Hey,
yeah, great.
Were you up here in Michigan at the
Yeah.
time? Okay.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah, all right. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to happen.
Right.
Well, fast forward a number of years, and I ended up being saved, and time came along where they were going to do this mission trip to Haiti, and it was like, I want you to go. And it was like, I feel like I'm supposed to go. Yeah, let's do it. And he's like, remember when I told you I was going to take you to Haiti with me when we went to lunch? And I'm like, yeah, and I thought you were full of shit too.
Right.
I'm not the typical Christian. Obviously, I still have a foul mouth and, covered in
I think
tattoos.
that's probably okay.
But yeah, I feel like it is. So, we went to Haiti, flew down there, and I don't like to follow rules in general. That's been a thing since kindergarten.
Gotcha.
And so like we get there and they're like, everyone needs to go through like this class on like what to expect in Haiti because it's nothing
It's a little
like
bit of a
the
shocker.
States.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to do that. There's a guy that's about to take like a load of lumber out to the job site. Like, can I just go with him and see it, smell it, feel it, and live it? Like, that's what I would rather do. And they were like, I mean, you should probably do the class first, but if you want to, I guess, go ahead. I'm like, cool, that's what I'm doing. And so I went with this guy and we delivered the lumber, and I remember getting there.
Was that in Port-au-Prince?
So yeah, we were in Port-au-Prince, but the village that we were in was actually Galais-Chambon. And so, we're in this truck. It's like an old U-Haul truck that they've just got like wooden benches in.
Yeah.
And like the sides, like holes cut out for airflow,
Completely reclaimed.
And so we get out there and there's like this skinny ass cow that just looks like nothing you'd see here.
Yeah.
And they got this brick wall like put around this facility where they had started this construction project. And over in the corner, there's palm fronds all wove together, making walls and a roof.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's that over there? And they were like, well, that's the school. That's where they're going to school right now. And I'm like, that's where these kids are going to school at? Like, my kids have a better fort in our fucking front yard.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, they're actually in class like right now. And I was like, what? And so we're there a little while, and they let him out. And here comes all these kids just like pouring out. And they're all in uniforms, like sharp as hell.
Yeah.
And they go home and change. Most of them, that's the only outfit they've got is their uniform for school.
Right.
So you
They got to protect it.
yeah, you see them running around after that in like a t-shirt with nothing on and just a t-shirt. But I went up, I'm like, can I go over there and look in this place? And they were like, yeah, go ahead. And I remember going over there and sitting down, and it was like 2x12s, and it might have bricks on one end and like a wood stump on the other, like holding it up for the kids to sit on.
Yeah.
I remember distinctly the chalkboard had one 2x4 leg and that it was screwed to, and then it was leaning against the cinder block wall to support it the rest of the way.
Yeah, like pretty rough.
And I just sat down, and I remember just crying. Like, these kids are, like, this is their freaking classroom. What a joke. This is horrible.
It's a big realization,
Absolutely
right?
horrible. Like, I just couldn't deal with it for a while, and I had kind of a little bit of a breakdown there. And like later, they were like, "That's why you should have gone to the class." And I'm like, "No, you know what? That was real."
Yeah,
Right. And I would rather do that and have that real, just like kick in the nuts. Like, this is no joke. This is how other people live. And you take a lot of shit for granted.
A lot. Absolutely.
So like, they tell you like, hey, when you're eating lunch on the job site, like they're going to come around and ask you for food. You're used to eating every day. You've got to eat your lunch. You'll get weak if not, and you're not going to be able to do your job. And, you know, so here I am. Obviously, you can see me, and these other listeners can. I'm a fat guy, right? And
I would just say a large mammal.
yeah, so I'm a fat guy, and I've got these little Haitian kids coming up to me, and the front of their hair is bleached from malnutrition, right? All black hair except for the front. It starts going blonde at the front when they're malnourished.
Really? Okay.
And they're coming up, and they call white people blonde. Hey, you blonde. Hey, you blonde. And then they do this motion with their hand up by their mouth like, give me some food.
Yeah.
Right? How's my fat ass supposed to sit there and eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich while I got
No, I need it.
starving Haitian kid here, like malnourished, that's eating literally dirt cookies? They would use lard and dirt and put them out in the sun and eat that, so they had something in their stomach so you didn't get those bad hunger pains.
Yeah.
And just one of the greatest weeks of my life, like, just to experience that and see and really put life into perspective. You know, I came back, like, everything my kids did irritated the shit out of me after that.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
yeah.
real bad. Like, I remember there was this little boy, and he had a stick that was forked at the end, and he had like a pop bottle jabbed into it. And then he had a bike tire, just the rim, not the actual tire. And he was running around with this stick and this pop bottle on the end, pushing this rim. That was his toy.
Right, like sticking around, yeah.
Just, no, like running, pushing it so that it was rolling.
Yeah.
And I had taken a bunch of stuff with me, a full suitcase with stuff from like Walmart, clothes, toys, you name it.
Yeah.
And so I took a pump so I could deflate all these balls to be able to fit more of them, and then I'd pump them up. And so I traded this kid a football for that stick and the pop bottle. He wanted to give me the rim too, and I'm like, no, I just want the stick and pop bottle. I brought it home. I've still got it to this day.
Yeah.
You know, and when my kids would be like, oh, we want this, I'm like, you want a stick and a pop bottle? Because guess what? That kid was happy as shit with it.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
thought that I was nuts for giving him a football for it, right? And you guys want to complain because, you know, Tommy next door just got the newest Xbox and you've got the older version. Like, shut up, you know, get real. And so it was great in that sense too, to kind of be able to share with my kids, like, you guys think for a minute you got it bad around here. Like, you've got no idea.
Well, it's hard though. For most people, they never get to witness the reality of the vast majority of humans on this planet, the situation that most people are in. And I've never even gotten that close as far as you're describing, but I've seen a bit in my travels, and yeah, it's a wake up call. It's sort of like, hey, bud, you know, you better wake up and smile, waking up in a bed and maybe with a roof over your head and knowing that you got breakfast coming.
Right. Yeah. There's still plenty of mud huts with a tin roof in Haiti.
Oh,
I mean, there was collapsed buildings in Port-au-Prince that there was still like pockets in, if you will. that hadn't collapsed completely that people lived in.
Oh,
like
heck
the rest
yeah.
of the buildings collapsed, but there's this area that's still roomy enough to stay in, and people do that. And it's like,
well, because there's nowhere else to go.
right. And we're over here like, oh man, it's hot today. Go turn the AC on.
Yeah.
This is rough. Like, really? Go sleep on a dirt floor in a mud hut with a tin roof that leaks.
And mosquitoes crawling all over
right.
the whole time.
Yeah. And eat some dirt cookies while you're at it. Let me know how those taste.
Yeah, no, it's 100%. If I think again, it almost goes back to like communication, because it's in a form, it's a way of nonverbal communication to show, to sort of, for a person to be able to see those conditions and really reflect back on their own life and say, holy cow, like I've had it so good.
Yeah.
I need to be more of a positive person. I need to be more like Matt. I got 2 kidneys.
Yeah.
I can give one of these suckers up.
Yeah, give one away. No,
Oh my God.
I would love to take my kids to Haiti still, even though they've gotten quite a bit older now, I think everyone needs to experience that in some way, shape, and it doesn't have to be Haiti. There's so many other places on this planet that are
You can find them in America.
right? And it's like, go see that, live that for a while, right? Ride around in a tap in Port-au-Prince with traffic lights that nobody pays attention to, and you stop at the gas station and there's a dude with a sawed-off shotgun guarding the gas pump so you don't steal it, or go to the grocery store that the parking lot has 10-foot high fences with razor wire around it, and dudes in the store walking around with AKs, to guard the groceries so people don't go in there shoplifting.
God, it's such a difference. Holy cow, yeah.
People here, if you walked into Walmart and there was guards just wandering the store with AKs, you'd be like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, right.
I'm out of here. There's some kind of incident happening,
It's true.
And
it's
for
so
them,
far out of our
that's
norm.
normal, everyday life for them.
Yeah.
So,
You always have to thank your lucky stars.
for sure. Absolutely.
Jeez. It is. It is just one of those things where I think taking things for granted is almost like an epidemic, especially when you don't get to experience the other side of things.
Yeah, well, I think, here in the United States, especially, our society tells us, like, constantly, whether you're on social media or commercials, it's like, you need this, you need this, you need that, and we've become so vain. We need this brand of clothes, and we need this Botox, and we need, our eyebrows done, and, we need fake eyelashes, and we need
the newest iPhone. iPhone 62.
And the big difference between that and the 61 is it comes in lime green that you couldn't get before. Like, the phone does nothing different. It's just a new color option,
right.
It's
It's got
like,
a better camera.
yeah, it's like we get so complacent to the rest of the world with all of the BS that's around us here,
Right.
and it's easy to fall into that trap.
It is.
I've
Well,
done it myself
again, we're
from time to time.
inundated constantly with ads, like you say, like, well, you need this, and when you hear something enough, it just starts to ring true in your head, and
Right.
you're sort of like, yeah, dude, God, how come I don't have that?
Right. Well, now when I get on Facebook later, because we were sitting here talking, my phone's listening, I'm going to have a freaking ad for an iPhone.
Oh, heck
you
yeah,
know,
yeah.
and I have a Samsung. So
That's why I left my phone in the car.
Right. I'm going to have ads for sailboats and for Haiti and like everything else. So it's like you can't even mention a word without an ad then coming back up in your face,
I
you know.
They're very sneaky. They always have been, and that's the job of marketing, but it's not impossible to overcome.
Right. No, you just got to want to and put an effort into it. And,
Yeah.
That's where it's like, I'm all about experiences. So like I said, we're doing concert a month this month. And
Yeah, that's cool. Where are you headed to next?
So Friday night, Interlochen, Chris Young.
Ooh, nice.
I love country music. We checked out Interlochen last year. What a great venue that is.
Yeah.
Last week we went down to the Jackson County Fair. It's half day of work, 4-hour drive down, did a little partying with Hank Williams Jr., and then got up the next morning, drove back, and did a half day of work the second half of the day. Getting a little too old for that shit, but
yeah,
but it was Hank Williams Jr., I was like, I'm not missing that. I
Right.
wanted to see that guy for a long time. And then the week after that, we got fair going on here, and Chris Jansen at the Emmett County Fair, so we'll be doing that concert.
Oh, really?
then,
You
and-
be at that?
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
So and then we had
What night is that?
Wednesday.
That's Wednesday. Okay.
Yep. Yep. And then last month we had Faster Horses, which I had told you about before, the big drunken redneck country music festival at the racetrack.
Weekender, right?
Yeah, Thursday to Monday. Drink a year's worth of alcohol in 4 days. And
Raiding people's coolers.
yeah, no, we
Or
take all of our
getting
own.
your coolers raided.
Yeah, they like to try and do that down there. They'll steal your whole
It's
ass
like a
cooler. They
sport.
won't even rate it. You come back, if your cooler's outside and it's not chained up, it's gonna be gone.
Up at Blissfest, that was the thing for a while. That's what drove me out of there.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this. So, I guess to sort of wrap some of this stuff up, because we've covered a lot of different things, both good and bad, I suppose, in our sort of culture.
Right.
In your experience, doing some of these very selfless, very giving things, and as far as I can tell, and we've only known each other for 2 hours total in our lives,
Right.
you seem like very, very happy, comfortable in your skin. Like life is a pretty good thing, and I want to live it.
Yeah.
Kind of person. What would you recommend to somebody if they were sort of like, I don't know, I'm not excited about anything, and I wish I knew of things to do that all of a sudden would sort of make me feel maybe more a part of a community or just better about life.
I would say start out volunteering somewhere.
Anything.
Anything.
Yeah.
You know, whether it be the animal shelter, whether it be at a church or a senior center or, anything, try it out. Somewhere you're going to find something that speaks to you.
Yeah.
Right. Like no matter what you do, there's always going to be experiences in life that just like speak to your soul. All right. And you'll feel it when you're doing it. You'll know it. You get those goosebumps on your arms and just like, damn, that felt good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think for everybody, it's different, right? Like my wife has worked with special needs people before, and she's a freaking saint. Like I couldn't do that 40 hours a week like that. That's a special kind of person that can do that. To me, it just was like draining mentally. Like, oh my God, I can't handle this.
Yeah.
Being around, and I don't have anything against special needs people.
But you got to find your niche for sure.
Right. It's just like some of that stuff can be overwhelming. You know, sometimes being around homeless people, is really overwhelming for people. It's not so much for me. I think that's why you got to kind of just try different things and see where you feel like it speaks to you at.
Yeah.
And once you do, I think you just kind of run with it and you grasp for more experiences like that where, I'm a people person. I just love meeting people and experiencing new things. So it doesn't necessarily have to be one thing or another.
Yeah.
If I can be in a group of people that I've never met before and just start making connections, I'm happy doing whatever it is. It would be cleaning up the side of a highway or,
it doesn't really
serving
matter.
a meal on Thanksgiving at a homeless shelter would be just the same to me, So I don't think you can ever point people to like one thing. I just think like volunteering in general is probably the best place to start to know where your area is.
And it will sort of branch out from there because
Right.
you're no matter what, you're always going to meet people at these things.
Yep.
So you form relationships and you become a bit of part of the community.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden you hear about other stuff. I know there's definitely a lot of people that are in a situation where they even if it's just over the last few years, have lost connection with most of their social network that they have.
Yeah.
Through just all the isolation, everything that's gone on in the last couple of years. And now they're sort of like, well, shit, what do I like? I don't have any friends. What do I do? And yeah, what you're saying would be, I think, a pretty...
Yeah, that's how you get to meet those people is going and doing new things. And
you get to be part of that community.
And for me, like a big highlight of the stuff that I've done, is like I've said to you, is like not a big deal to me. But like this last year, I asked my son what he wanted for Christmas. 16 years old.
Yeah.
What would you guess the answer would be?
Oh, if I was 16, I know I wouldn't ask for a car because I'd never get one, but bicycle probably. I don't know.
So he kept saying, I don't know. And then it ended up, well, I want to adopt a family through Salvation Army, right?
Don't I sound like an
And,
asshole?
and so that's what he had wanted to do the year before. And the year before we had more time. This time it was such short notice. By the time he said it, it was like, all right, well, let's see what we can't do. So we kind of twisted it around and we just made a game of it. There's this Emmett County Helping Hands Facebook page where people are always asking for help of different kinds, food, gas cards, whatever.
Yeah.
So we went around town for a week, right? Every day, buying gas cards, gift cards at restaurants, at places to sell food, you name it. And then we would hide them somewhere, right? And then we would post it on that Emmett County Helping Hands like, hey, gift card can be found here for this,
Oh, like
this
scavenger
location.
hunt almost, yeah.
And kind of made a game out of it and made it fun, something for people to get out and do, because it's wintertime in northern Michigan, not a ton anyway.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't want to be around others, so we put them in locations where you didn't have to go and be around like a big group of people or anything.
Yeah.
And when I had suggested that to my son, he was like, I love it. Yeah, let's do it. And then the local newspaper caught wind of it and wanted to interview him and talk to him about it. And it was like, for me, that was like better than any of the stuff that I've done.
Yeah, right.
Because it's like my kid has been paying attention.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And he's seeing the value of life is that I don't need this shit. I don't need a new Xbox. I don't need some drone or, something that other 16-year-olds want, whatever it is. Like, I want to do something for someone else. That's what I want.
That's a real connection, I think.
Yeah.
And it's actually worth something.
Right. And like, as a parent, it doesn't get any better than
that.
that.
I'll bet that was a bit of a tear-jerk moment.
Oh, for sure. It was like everything. That's it. Like, I could die today. I've lived a life, right? I've left a legacy.
Yeah.
Laws have been changed on this planet because of me. Like,
and
how
in
cool
a
is
good
that?
way.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Not because I robbed the shit out of somebody or whatever. So like, I'm fine. And then knowing that my kids have like picked up on that and that's kind of part of who they are now. Like, that's great. Cause now another generation has, I've got 6 kids. So if they all end up following along those lines, even on a small scale, that's 6 times more than what I could have ever done.
Yeah, that's true.
And if they have kids and it passes down, if they each have 2, and then the following generation, there's 12 more people doing cool shit for other people. Like, that's awesome.
It really is. It really is. Oh my God. This has been way beyond what I thought. I was like, yeah, we'll go in, we'll chit chat. It'll be great. This is fantastic.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm going to be dumb. There's going to be like 2 people to listen to this and be like, what a waste of my fucking time.
No way. Well, I can't thank you enough. And I don't know if you want to plug any of those organizations or anything like that, or maybe you can give me the information. I can at least put them in the description. Or, I don't know, because some people don't want things associated with them and things associated with different podcasts. I don't know. I mean, this is a pretty clean podcast when it comes to things.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a foul mouth, so I apologize about the language. But, yeah, I mean,
it's just very descriptive.
Head Start is great. Check it out. Preschool for kids. Reading is fundamental. If you ever want to donate money or books, is a great organization. Love that stuff. Mission to Haiti, you can donate to them. They feed a lot of families in Haiti that don't have food otherwise. They put kids in school. It's a great organization. The Alliance for Paired Donations, who I donated my kidney through, they're great.
And all these can be found online.
All
right?
online, yep. Yeah, Google's great for stuff like that. Kidneys for Communities I'm part of now is a great thing. If you want to get more information about potentially becoming a donor, that's a great resource to go and check out.
Yeah. I'll put links to all those in the description.
Cool groups to check out. So,
well, it definitely sounds like it's changed your life in a very good way. Not that it was bad before, but it seems like it's just better and better and better the more of that stuff.
Yeah, I think you make life what you want out of it, and you can make it better and better no matter what you're doing.
Absolutely. God almighty, my brain is just clinking away in here, trying to process all this. Matt, I can't thank you enough.
Not a problem. Glad I could be here for you.
That was awesome. That's it. We are
All right.
done.
Cool.